Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Thank you for your patience. We had a bit of a slow start due to technical issues, but I'm glad that you are able to join us today. So welcome to our Gilman Advisor Panel on supporting HBCU students in their study abroad endeavors. We're just so glad that you're joining us and listening and learning from the experiences of seasoned HBCU advisors, and to learn from them and use this as an opportunity to really commemorate the HBCU White House Initiative, which is committed to continuing to leverage our platform to provide meaningful experiences for the HBCU field and community. So without further ado, I'm really honored to introduce Amelia and our panelists today. So Amelia is a Foreign Service officer currently serving as the USA Study Abroad Outreach Officer in the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. She previously served as the Assistant Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy Cyprus, managing exchange and cultural programs along with outreach initiatives. From 2015 to 17, she served in Canada, heading the investment visa section of the U.S. Consulate in Toronto. Prior to the Foreign Service, she was awarded a Fulbright Scholarship or Fulbright Fellowship to teach in Sinop, Turkey for 1 year. She also advised students on pursuing international opportunities, where she worked as a fellowships advisor at Smith College and served as a teaching fellow at Athens College. Amelia graduated from Smith College in 2009 with a bachelor's in government. She received her master's from the University of Athens in Southeast European Studies in 2013. She speaks Greek, Turkish, and Spanish. So thank you for being here today, Amelia. Now I want to introduce our panelists. So first we have Dr. Osakwe, who is the Director of International Education and a Professor of English at Albany State University in Georgia. She leads the campus internationalization agenda, expanding study abroad and global learning experiences to China, Peru, and Ghana. In her role, she mentors faculty in creating and implementing new faculty-led programs and in internationalizing home courses to increase global learning for all students. Dr. Osakwe has presented numerous papers and has many publications. She is the special issue editor on internationalizing the curriculum and is the founder and chief editor of ASU Global Issues, Journal of Study Abroad and Global Experiences. Our next panelist is Dr. Pamela Hurd, who is the Director of Honors Student Services and Activities at Jackson State University in Mississippi, and has more than 25 years of experience as an educator, director, and consultant. Dr. Hurd started her career as an instructor in mathematics at Jackson State University and assistant professor of math at Langston University, where she stayed and went on to NASA to manage programs for 6 years. In her current role at Jackson State University, she is committed to opportunities that provide her students exposure to prestigious scholarships, study abroad, internships, and many other opportunities. Our next panelist is Ms. Maraina Montgomery. She is the Assistant Director for Study Abroad in the Ralph J. Bunche International Affairs Center at Howard University. As an international education practitioner and scholar, she works to influence the culture that she governs, the field of education abroad, through her advocacy of increased access, inclusion, diversity, and equity to improve the participation rate and overall experience of non-white students and professionals. She aims to be intentional about leveraging her voice and privileges to ensure that non-white students and aid-related matters are factored into every conversation related to global education that she is a part of. So as you can see, our panelists are very accomplished people. And so before we begin our panel and hear from them, I do want to pass it over to Amelia. And so here's Amelia. and she'll be joining us in a little bit.
Perfect. Sorry for the baton pass. Thank you so much, Tiffany, and good morning, everybody. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you today, but more importantly, with some truly incredible HBCU advisors. I really think this is a tremendous opportunity for us to sort of support the White House Initiative on historically Black colleges and universities. But before we dive in, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We're all juggling work, family obligations in ways we never have before. So please know that your kids and pets are more than welcome sort of in the background for attendees. And even though the world at large and study abroad specifically face unprecedented challenges right now, I do want to say on behalf of the entire Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, we're optimistically looking forward to a strong return of American study abroad and American student mobility. But we are realistic about the current challenges that our field is facing. And so with Gilman programs specifically, we are continuing to be extremely flexible with our programs. And as many of you know, our current Gilman application, which closes October 6th, is for programs starting not only in spring 2021, but all the way through academic year 2021 and 2022. We're also accepting applications for virtual programs. So please continue to encourage your students to apply for Gilman. It's one of the best things I think the State Department does. But we also encourage all of you as advisors, please serve on our selection panels for our programs. It's a great way to get a sense of the programs, the competitive application, but also ultimately support your students, which is what this is all about. We're continuing to sort of introduce flexibilities as well for our critical language scholarship program, which is sort of the sister program to Gilman in the USA Study Abroad branch. And we also are continuing to do lots of support for our advisors and communities through sessions exactly like this. But I feel like I'm taking up too much air in the room. So I just want to thank you guys all for being here. And I'm going to turn it back to Tiffany so we can get things rolling.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you for sharing that and really highlighting the Gilman program. We really appreciate that. But now let's start our panel discussion and let's learn from our panelists today. So I just really wanted to start off our time together just thinking about community. And so in what ways have you helped build community for Black students who study abroad, especially when it comes to recruitment, advising, on-site support, and the return home to the US?
Well, I guess I can start. For Jackson State, like they said, I'm the Director of Honor Student Services and Activities. And what we try to do is, first of all, expose our students to the opportunities, to let them know that we will support them in a study abroad. We have study abroad opportunities. And once we inform them, expose them to opportunities, then we talk to them about where would you like to go. And if they want to go different places, what will hold you back? You know, ask those questions to try to make sure that we help them and support them in the things that might hold them back, especially funding. Their family might not agree with them traveling abroad by themselves, especially in, you know, the pandemic, you know, and also dealing with, you know, race issues. And so we try to have many workshops to help the students be informed and try to support them in any way we can.
Okay. Let me add a little bit to what she just said. So how we try to do this, you know, is through advising, and we use every forum, every study abroad forum, including Gilman Scholarship Forum as an advisement forum. For example, we held a virtual Gilman's workshop yesterday. So we just don't focus on just talking about discussing the writing component. We also generally have a feel of what their timing is, what other engagements they have that could stop them, you know, from engaging in the writing. and then advise them on how to manage their time and how not to procrastinate. And because once you have a feel of what their general timetable is and their general disposition and challenges, so it helps you not just to focus on one component of study abroad, but to focus on everything. So, and we, through opening up to them and showing them that we're there for them at all times, they also open up to say, okay, these are some of our present challenges. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I'm working tonight and I'm doing this. And then I can say, well, maybe if you put in 1 extra hour before you sleep to do the introduction and put in another extra hour in the morning, maybe that can help you to put in that time you think you have to have like 4 hours stretch to sit down and write the essay. So it's more or less a holistic kind of approach, and then showing that you are amenable and you're understanding and you're, acceptable to hearing from them anytime. So my students, they text me literally anytime. Some of them will say late at night, oh, I'm not able to even know where to click, but I have my essay ready, and I'll say, okay, go there, do this. So it's more of patience and allowing yourself to be there as not just a mentor, but also a family member, understanding the peculiar challenges that they have. Some of them are not very conversant with using computers. They might just be using cell phone to do all their typing and everything. And so when it comes to submitting, they have issues. So the issue is not just one thing, it's a kind of holistic thing. So we allow them to feel like family. If you know how you can talk to your parents also, just go ahead and talk to me that way. And it makes them feel comfortable, and they are more relaxed and discussing those issues without feeling that they are exceptionally terrible and they can't do this.
Yeah, all of that really resonates. But I'd first like to thank Tiffany and Amelia and Gilman for providing this opportunity for us to really share our student stories and the work that we're doing with them. I'd also like to thank Carrie Miller. She's at Howard University, who really supports with our students in developing their Gilman applications so that they are successful. And so in line with all of that, the creation of community is essential. And especially at HBCUs, we really recognize that our role of administrators really goes beyond that. And to Dr. Osakwe's point, our students interact with us as though we're extensions of their family. And I think, as said, we also interact with them as such as well, trying to keep those boundaries, but at the same time, just feeling that connection instinctually based on the energy within our work. And so my background is in teaching and student affairs. So I incorporate that into the work that I do at Howard. And I'll say that there are multiple touch points of interaction on our campus that allow for the students to feel as though we're familiar sources of support for them. Our offices are oftentimes situated in places that may not be areas that students pass on a daily basis or enter on a daily basis. So I really think it's important for us to go out to where they are. If it's the chapel services, if it's the large group events on campus, if it's the small group events on campus in different departments or in the classrooms, just being present so that our faces and our message becomes one that's common and one that they don't have to seek out, but one that's being delivered to them regularly. That helps to establish the feeling of community. Additionally, the creation of peer advising programs and ambassador programs within our offices, I think goes a very long way with giving students the opportunity to see their peers in leadership positions that are speaking directly from their experiences abroad in a way that is the same language as the students themselves. We're getting older. I feel myself getting older personally. And the ways that I would communicate with a student about the value of the study abroad experience are very theoretical and technical at this point in my career. But a fellow student will simply state it how it is in a way in which their peers are much more open to hearing and willing to like digest. Also programming. As mentioned, I think by Dr. Hurd, having the workshops that are culturally relevant for our students are also essential. And when those workshops are also led by their peers, that helps to bring the students to that space where they can get the information around what it could be like to be in one country or another country as a person of multiple different identities. So I spend a lot of time supporting students in facilitating those conversations, but also encouraging them to understand that their individual experience is not how every other student's experience will be. And so for them to speak from their own position is essential, and to not try and make blanket statements about what life is like for one person or another person in one country or another country. But I'll say lastly, just on this point, that the establishment of the hashtag Study Abroad So Black and the movement that's associated with this rallying cry, I think has been one of the most publicly facing ways that I've personally, and my team has personally helped to build community, both on Howard's campus as well as the overall field of education abroad. And the hashtag and the movement is an unapologetic proclamation that Black students should, can, and do study abroad. And they should feel welcomed, supported, and encouraged to seek out and maximize these global opportunities. And so the vision behind the hashtag is to aggregate all of these beautiful stories and images of our students so that when we do face challenges convincing parents or students that the world abroad is for them, we can reference all of the multiple hundreds of students across the US and world who are participating actively in a global education experience. So those are just a few ways that I think community building at Howard and within my role has been effective thus far.
Yes, thank you so much. All of you who definitely are doing such great work on campus. And something that you all touched upon is family, and it's definitely connected to building community when we're supporting students on the ground. And so I guess a related question I have for you all is, how have you navigated familial or cultural nuances when reaching Black students to go study abroad?
I can start. So the Black family, the Black community, the Black culture, it's flexible and ever changing. So we have to recognize that. And no one family is the same as another. And overall, as just a rule of thumb, I like to work in harmony with our Black culture and the life experience of Black folks versus in opposition. So therefore, if a student has concern with being able to study abroad because of issues related to the family, I always invite them to connect me with whomever needs to be convinced. I think this is also something very special about the HBCU academic experience, is that, again, to the point that Dr. Osakwe made, we see ourselves as a part of the family experience. And so our willingness to speak with parents, aunties, uncles, whomever it may be, is just kind of commonsensical. It's something we do with ease and we don't think of as a burden. But as I mentioned, the Black culture is fluid and it's fly. And so there's a lot of evidence out there in the world now, especially in the digital space, that shows information about what students may be concerned with. So referencing YouTube videos, referencing all of the many travel groups that are out there, who all show that travel and education abroad is not as scary or as unfamiliar as a student or a family may believe, depending on where they're coming from in the world. So I'll also say that offering intentional and authentic spaces for ongoing student-centered just discussion and discourse allows for their peers to dispel any myths and to show what the reality of a situation may be. I know that before I moved to South Korea and Japan, there was the very strong misconception that Black people don't travel there or they don't like us over there. So I understand from my own experience what students may come up against, but there's nothing like just going to these places and understanding it as a unique individual. And that's the message that I really try and bring home when engaging with students.
I would echo Ms. Montgomery's statements, because when you're talking to family members, it depends on, the questions, the concerns that they may have. And as a mother, I might not know all the answers, but I try to find out from people who experienced it. Could they give feedback to the family so we can make sure that we are accurate and we are truthful with what we tell them so they can make an informed decision. And a lot of times when we get, students who have experienced study abroad in these different countries, to get them to talk to the parents and the family for the answer the questions that they have the answers to, then, we get a positive feedback. They feel better. And then they're able to, support their child in going across the country, studying abroad. So we want to make sure that we have the correct information, we're truthful, and we get somebody who could really relate to the questions they're asking and make sure that we answer the questions. And if we can't answer, we find somebody who can, or we just tell them we don't know. So that's the thing that, as we relate to the family members and the student.
Thank you. I think echoing exactly what you said, Dr. Hurd, is the idea of making sure that they are relating with people like them. So apart from just me advising and saying, I've taken students here, I've taken students there, and we all came back safely, there's nothing that they value as much as having the students themselves. So in the present recent virtual presentations we are organizing, we have the global ambassadors. One of our students came back from South Africa and she stayed there for a whole semester, and that is something that is unusual amongst our students. They want to just go for maybe a month and come back, but she is the first one that has stayed a whole semester. So we had her speak directly to students. We put her into almost all our core classes, and she does her presentation, shares her fears before she traveled, all the myths about what they were saying about Africa, and what she found when she got there, how everything was familiar, how she was accepted. And she also shared that, there are fears that are genuine, and but you have fears everywhere, including the small Albany where we are. There are shootings every time. So it's something that you can live by. So then she's sharing those experiences directly with the students. And then you see that they ask her more questions than they would if I were the one presenting. So they will say, okay, so how did you do this? How did you do your meal? Were you able to go without burger for, So no, we have some burgers, but I wanted to eat some, other food. So they asked more questions. And that made them feel, this is doable. This is doable. The student said, I didn't know that I could do it because the money was a lot of money, but I had to talk to financial aid. I started ahead of time, and giving them step by step what they did. So it was better from them hearing from her than hearing from me. So everybody will be calling Jasmine Brown. Can you tell us, okay, so what did you do when you did this? What did you do? And what did they do about your hair? What do you do about your hair? How did you do this? So that was more interactive and more appreciative. And they tell themselves, oh, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So, and it's, more, and they are more motivated talking with a fellow student than they are talking with me, because already they say, oh yeah, well, you've been all over the place. So it's easy for you. So that's part of it, letting them dialogue directly with global ambassadors. And we have the global ambassadors and ASU Global Issues, and that's all stories about students, their own stories. So I teach composition, and I integrate that into my composition classes. I embedded it into my textbook. So they read the stories and they ask questions. They say, okay, so how did Vincent, he was in Japan. Do you know anything about his experience? So they are typical questions, but they are familiar because these are students, not me. So those are some of the ways we navigate the cultural nuances.
It's so great to hear from each of you all and how you use a variety of strategies to support families, to support the students, and also understand that, yeah, families do have concerns and that they have a lot of fears, as many families do. And Ms. Montgomery, I really love how you talked about we're not working in opposition of parents, families, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, the list could go on. We're working in harmony with them, right? And Dr. Hurd, I really love how you talked about, speaking from a parent yourself and using those experiences and relating and making that connection with parents. And Dr. Osakwe, yes, using peers, using students who have had that experience and what they've gone through, for them to share with parents about their amazing experience and how it was very transformative in their lives to share that with parents. So I really love all those things. And so thinking that like you have the student on board, you have the family on board, how do you all prepare your students before they depart, right before they depart for their programs abroad?
Okay. Oh, well, right before they depart. So I actually have a pretty lengthy pre-departure orientation. In fact, I call it a Mindful Travelers Workshop series, in which the students are invited, and as much as I can required to attend at least 3 of the 6 parts of the orientation. And so for a week leading up to a Saturday, more logistics-based orientation, there's workshops that relate to different topics. So one is for first-time travelers abroad, allowing for them to hear information about what it's like to travel and distinguishing the difference between traveling for vacation versus traveling for study. And these are all students who are going for either a summer term or a full semester, or even sometimes a full academic year abroad. So they're preparing to be there for a significant amount of time. And therefore we talk about culture shock and really understanding how there's the highs and the lows that can be expected. And I really like to prime them for their post-study abroad life. And so there's a workshop that I do on maximizing the study abroad experience. And so that encourages them to go into that experience knowing that they should have something to show for their experience. And that could be research, that could be a blog, a vlog, a scrapbook. I'm a scrapbooker, so I always encourage them to scrapbook. I still have mine from, a long time ago. But just putting in their mind that this is a moment that is going to undoubtedly transform the way that they look at themselves and the world around them. And so the more that they prepare to really capture that moment, the better they'll be positioned moving forward, whether it be for graduate school or, you know, for any of the other things that will follow. So there's there's a discussion around being an Afropolitan. When I first learned of the term when I was living in Ghana, it blew my mind. And so it's a term that's not used very widely. And so I invite them to discuss what that could mean, whether they feel themselves a connection with the term. And that just leads to this very theoretical understanding of the Black experience across the diaspora. And this is all, again, to prime them for this experience that will allow for them to unlearn and to relearn who they are. So to unlearn some of the negative cultural information that we've been taught based on the history of this country, and to relearn who they are when they're their best selves, when they're unattached to communities and families that play a role in the way that they see themselves. And then, as I mentioned, there's a Saturday pre-departure orientation that covers all of the logistics from transcripts to the financial piece. But it's rigorous, but they like it. Thank you.
So here at Jackson State University, we have a JSU Global. And so they do all the pre-departure orientations, and they do other workshops with our students dealing with culture, laws, and then talk about, you know, like she said, the experience when, you know, post departure when they come back. But in the middle with our students that I work with, we also talk about, you know, little things about where you're going, you know, get the feel of what you can and can't do, the laws that are different between here and that country you're going to, understanding the culture, understanding the food, you know, because a lot of times, you know, some of our students, you know, do not like the food. So how would you adjust, you know, being homesick, how you're going to adjust, how you know, who's your person to contact if you need help, you know, making sure that you have those contact numbers, contact emails, you know, so we'll be there to support you. So all of those things are gathered together so the students will be know where they go if they need help, you know, in all different situations.
Yeah, I think pretty much what Ms. Montgomery said and Dr. Hurd said. It's our orientation procedure, but more than everything, we try to stress, you know, after we go through the cultural beats and health beats and everything, we want to re-emphasize what the real difference between the study abroad and the vacation. And we want to find out from them what exactly they think they are going there to do in terms of what they are going to learn. And we, more or less as a department, apart from the academic side that the faculty will require them to do these assignments and this assignment, we usually give them a template of the global issues, the article they are going to write, that's going to cover, that we want them to be able to come out with something from the courses they are going over there to learn, have a big main gist of what your course is all about, and come back with some cultural aspects that really, really touches you, that you think has impacted your life, you know, major lessons from there, and make sure you learn something about the country. You know, we share the continent they are going to, general history about the country, but want them that once they go there, try to get something out of it. Try to make contact with one person, like a friend or something, that you can maintain contact with once you come back, because we always say, you don't know when you're ever going to go back there. So you have to establish some kind of link. We weren't doing that initially, but we found out that once they come back primarily sharing things like what they ate, you know, entertainment, and forgetting every other thing. So if you ask them to do presentation, their presentation would resonate around what they like dancing, party, singing, pictures of picnics, and nothing to do with study abroad. So with that template, we found out that once they go, they focus and they try to get that back, but also do other things. But once they come back, because we want them, we have in mind they're going to do class presentations. So we want them to come back with things that are really concrete, global learning, intercultural lessons, friends they made, and things like that. So we give them those key and then we lead them to get every other thing. So that helps them to come back with real concrete outcomes in addition to courses they've learned or in addition to any other thing that they learn. Because we want them to write something, 2 pages with their best 2 or 3 pictures that we want to share with the rest of the world. So we want to make sure they're just not sharing dishes that they ate, you know. No, they share that, but they also share things that they learn academically, um, internationally, interculturally, and all those major components. So they come back more holistically because it's a lot of money spent traveling. You want to make sure that they are well focused. So our orientation takes care of that, and we give them those templates in hard copy. They put it in their file, so they looking at that, and it helps them to know what kind of pictures they are taking and things like that. So
Yes, thank
yeah.
you for sharing that. Just really love how all of you are preparing your students by thinking ahead, like what stories do they want to bring back when they come back home, and just thinking about those relationships. What kind of friendships are they making while they're abroad too? Really love that. And before we go into our time of Q&A, I want to just ask one last question to you all. Would you all be able to share one Gilman Scholar success story that you would like to share with all of us to encourage us in our study abroad efforts, especially nowadays? I think we all need a little bit encouragement.
Okay. Well, I first have to say that the Gilman Scholars Program has been a tremendous asset to our institutions overall. And every single student that I've had the pleasure of working with following their time abroad has contributed to the reimagination and the promotion of study abroad at Howard and across I think the HBCU spectrum. And so when they come back, when the Gilman Scholars come back, the ones that I've worked with often, they're very excited to ensure that their peers understand how to have the same experience or to have a same type of experience. So a few of the projects that have really been supportive of their peers in the institution are often related to either freshman recruitment and engagement. So there was a wonderful student who studied abroad in Ghana, Makaya. She came back and she presented in the freshman dorm. So taking the information outside of the International Affairs Center, outside of the Study Abroad office, and taking it to the residence halls, which I am a firm believer are a really underutilized space for student engagement with study abroad. And so she had this presentation that was all about engaging freshmen around the possibility of study abroad and the importance of planning for it now, their freshman year, so that regardless of their major, their minor, their goals in life, they were planning for this experience to be a part of their college education. And it was just phenomenally received by the students. I was impressed, and it gave her something to feel very proud of having done after having gone abroad, to know that she was paying forward, which is very, again, intrinsic to the HBCU mission and vision. She was being of service to the community in a way that will have a lasting impact. So that's just one.
Okay, Ms. Montgomery, that's a very good story, and it's similar to a student that we have that is also a Gilman Scholar, Sydney Wilson. He studied abroad with me in Ghana, And when he came back, he was so excited. He's also a Gilman scholar, and he was so excited right from Ghana where he was, because they did teaching internship where I placed them in classrooms there, and they did some teaching with some primary schools. So they were placed in classrooms. And apparently some of them were really helpful because at that time they were running short of teachers. So they placed them and they found themselves to be very important, you know. So he taught a class, and during break, he was so overwhelmed. We've seen a lot of students who didn't even have breakfast, and they all standing around where they, you know, sell small snacks and, you know, waiting for somebody to give them a little. And he was spending all his money paying for them. And I said, you cannot sustain this. So he did a lot of service learning there. And when he came back, he did a video. And in the video, he ran it through the classes, showing and explaining why no one should have an excuse for not learning in school, because there are people who don't have anything to eat and they still walk miles and come to school. So apart from just now motivating other students to study abroad, he was now a motivator for people to be more focused in learning, period. Learning anything. You shouldn't have any excuse to say you're not studying hard, because look at these kids. You know, he showed examples, he showed kids that are very highly dedicated to learning with nothing, little or nothing. So he became a champion, and he was promoting both study abroad and Gilman scholarship, telling them how he never knew he was going to travel, but I think he got the highest amount, 5,000, which was more than enough. So he became a great, in fact, he was actually one of the first to get a job. He was hired by one of the schools, neighboring schools here, to teach there. And the head teacher there will call me and say, do you have another student like Wilson who has this external experience? Because when he got there, he also started an international education week event. So that is, you know, a very good example. But we have other students like that too. They are all Gilman scholars. Actually, 3 of them that went to Japan. And one thing that we try to do is that apart from the videos or whatever, we want them to document their stories. So their stories are published in our ASU Global Issues, and they are all accessible in our websites. So students read them and it inspires them a lot. Yeah.
And I can give you an example of one of our students. He also had an opportunity to go to Japan. And the experience he had, he would come back. He came back and actually taught himself how to speak Japanese. And then he did many workshops for other students so they could be exposed to Japan culture and activities and different things like that. And it got more students interested. So the excitement of other students getting the opportunity to hear from other students about their experience and being able to bring that, being able to teach other students about another language, you know, that was great. And it was exciting, and, you know, got the students going and trying to get these things, saying, I want to study abroad, I want to do this, you know, and asking questions. So I think this experience with Gilman, giving the students the opportunity to apply and for funds and a chance to just to live out a dream that they might have, that because they was exposed to it, you know, being exposed to something that you don't know about, you know, and then said, I can do it, and have an opportunity to do it is a great thing.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing those stories, and really love how, like, the idea of exposure, paying it forward, that's really definitely coming across in all your stories. And so, yeah, let's go into a time of Q&A. We have quite a few questions. I don't know if we can get to all of them, but thank you for submitting them for those who are attending. I want to focus on some key ones. This question is directed to Miss Montgomery. However, anyone can answer. Can you talk more about the hashtag Study Abroad So Black? Where did it originate? How widespread is it across the country? Is there programming around it?
Sure, thank you for the question. Well, the story of hashtag Study Abroad So Black. There's layers. So it came out of a conversation among peers. So Keisha Abraham and Tania Naves, we all work collectively, and it started at Howard, essentially, and it started in 2016. And it came from this idea or this recognizing or this recognition that study abroad is super white. Sorry, but just in terms of the number of students who do participate, in terms of the lack of diversity within the field, it's still a space that we're working to really create a collective difference within, in terms of all minoritized populations. And so this idea that it was so white, wanting to make it something empowering for our students, always wanting to reflect a sense of pride in their identity, especially their Black identity in HBCU. So it became hashtag Study Abroad So Black for that reason. And in working with students, I really just started to create something that spoke to them. So from hearing who they are, what they're interested in. And again, it's this community-oriented process of aggregating information. It's not owned by one entity. It's not for one institution. It is for the field, and we all should be participating so that we're all reflected within it. That's the value of a hashtag. And the movement itself is just that. It's a rallying cry that we all support this cause, that this is a worthy initiative, that time has come, and come on, everybody, jump on board. I hope that answers the question well enough.
Yeah, that definitely does. And yeah, I love that it's a movement. The hashtag is a movement, and so I really love that. And Dr. Hurd, Dr. Osakwe, did you have anything to add? If not, that's totally okay. Okay. Yeah, so there are, again, lots of great questions here. So one question is, how does the Gilman Scholarship help you promote study abroad on your campus? How does it really support your efforts? I know you all briefly touched upon it, but we would love to hear more.
Well, be good for that. Our students, most of the time, are worried about funding. So once we are advertising, even in our study abroad fair, we do not talk about study abroad without talking about Gilman. It's more like they are almost like synonymous, because once you're talking about study abroad, you know what's on their mind. This is extra funding. This is extra money. What do you want to tell me about it? So once we are talking about study abroad, we are almost immediately saying we have available funding. We have Gilman Scholarship. We have a lot of students who have gotten it, and they are here. You can talk to them directly. So Gilman has been that tool that helps us to sell study abroad. It helps us because we can talk about study abroad confidently, knowing that we've had students in the past that have received Gilman Scholarship, and they're helping us to talk about it. We have other scholarships too. And some of the students who got Gilman have been able to also receive funds for education abroad. We have a student that is built to go to Ghana, but Gilman was the first motivation. So once she was able to finish writing Gilman, and she felt, oh wow, it wasn't too terrible. So she went ahead and wrote several other scholarships. So as we are talking about study abroad, Gilman Scholarship helps us to motivate. So it's very popular on campus, and you can see the flyer everywhere. And anytime we are doing our study abroad fair, we are also advertising Gilman. And we had a virtual study abroad fair yesterday. We had a Gilman scholar who did a presentation. Um, and she's the one that got both Gilman scholarship and also got the fund for education abroad. So we had her as one of the presenters, and it's actually on YouTube. So if you click, and she's one of the presenters. So we market everything together. So Gilman he has helped us a lot on campus, and we continue to use it to motivate students to study abroad.
That's the same with us. When we're talking about study abroad, the next question is, I want to go, but I don't have any money. So Gilman is our advertising, saying this is the way that we can help you fund some of the trip. And so students are interested. So like she said, they go hand in hand in advertising our study abroad to help our students, succeed, and also try to develop and implement their dream of studying abroad.
And I'll just piggyback briefly to say that through the support of the Gilman financial assistance, it's helping extend the limited reach of our smaller offices, I would argue. So as I mentioned, the students come back and they're very motivated to encourage more of their peers to study abroad, and they're willing to do the work, and they are responsible, in fact, for doing some form of work that supports the mission of study abroad because of their Gilman Award. So they've been an extension of the administrative reach of the study abroad office at Howard for sure, and been a representation within each of the departments that it's possible to do so. And then I'd also add that being that they are scholars and they have this distinction as leaders on campus as it relates to study abroad, that helps in building our community as well. They're points of contact in which they really benefit from feeling as though they have a certain level of authority and of leadership capacity to work with their peers and to support faculty and staff as well. And that just helps to build out the campus model around international education very nicely.
Yeah, it's so great to hear. As someone who works on the Gilman program, it's just great to hear the impact that this scholarship has on not only students, but also faculty, staff, administration, and your campuses for study abroad. So we're about out of time, but I'm just so thankful that so many questions came in. And I also want to pass it off to Amelia for any closing remarks that she has just to end our time today.
No, I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to this tremendous advisor campus. Pre-foreign service, I used to be a fellowships advisor, and I think one of the best things we can do is just the time we take with our students. And I haven't come across a Gilman advisor who doesn't care deeply about their students really getting that international experience. So in short, I know things are rough out there right now, but you guys are doing amazing work in the field. Don't lose heart. Keep getting those students overseas. We at Team Gilman and Education and Cultural Affairs, we're here to support your campuses. We'll do everything we can to help you get those students those incredible sort of opportunities, and keep up the amazing work. Always feel free to reach out to our office, and of course the fantastic Gilman team as well, as we sort of move forward. But thank you guys so much for your time.
And
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of your hard work as well. This is a nice, great collaboration.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, for everyone who's participating. Well, we hope that you took some really great gems, great words of wisdom and encouragement in this time. So everyone, please be safe, and we hope that you all have a really wonderful day and a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.